Well, Tom, thank you so much. And we're just thrilled to be here for the first ever Chicago Innovation Awards Foundation scholarship competition. So we're excited. As some of you may know, this is the 11th year for the Chicago Innovation Awards. It started 10 years ago, and its whole purpose was to really be able to celebrate innovation across a wide range of different types of organizations. Large companies, small companies, startups, academia, government, nonprofits, arts, performing arts, et cetera, et cetera. So really to show people the importance and the value of innovation in every type of organization that we have in Chicago. Our nomination period is just about ready to open on May 1st and runs through July 15th. So from May 1st to July 15th, if you are currently working at or run a innovative organization, have a successful new product, a new service, or new process, or know of somebody that has one, then please have them fill out a nomination for the Chicago Innovation Awards. And the 14 judges will take all of them under careful consideration. Last year we had 409 nominations. This year our goal will be to get even more than that. So we're looking forward to it. We also have each year put together a series of Chicago Innovation Award events. Probably, it's fair to say, this is our first event of 2012. But as you can see, we have a number of other events that are all lined up for the entire year. In April, we have our first ever also celebrating women in innovation that's being co-sponsored by us and the Girl Scouts at the Girl Scouts Gathering Place. On May 23rd is our official kickoff for this year's Chicago Innovation Awards year, and that'll be held at the new 1871, which is the new tech center incubator at the over at the Merchandise Mart, which Kevin Willer, who's the CEO of the Chicagoland Entrepreneurial Center, assures me it'll be done by then, and they're expecting it to be done by May 2nd, so hopefully by May 23rd we'll be able to kick off there, which will be great. On June 14th, we're having a past winners showcase, so you can come and meet some of the past winners of the Chicago Innovation Awards at a new company called Red Frog Events. And Red Frog Events is an interesting business. They run urban races, warrior races, and they've grown exponentially. When you go to their office, you won't see conference rooms, you'll see tree houses and tree forts, and they forced me actually to go down a zip line that they've got in their office, and it's a great environment for us to talk about how best to create a culture of innovation. Then what we've got on August 13th is a training day called Media, Capital, and Strategy at the Museum of Broadcast Communications, where we'll bring together some of the city's best media experts, venture capitalists, and strategists to share their ideas on how they go about helping small to mid-sized companies advance in those ways. On September 5th is when we celebrate all of our nominees at the House of Blues, and that night is really aimed at signaling to the nominees of 400 to 500 folks. Last year we had 800 people come to the House of Blues, that indeed they're the backbone and the cornerstone of all innovation going on in Chicago. So we'd like to celebrate and recognize them. And then the top 75 nominees this year will once again get a $2,500 scholarship to attend a full-day program at Kellogg called the Practical Innovator. And then this year's big 2012 Chicago Innovation Awards event is at the Harris Theater again, which is on October 22nd. So please come to that. You'll also see then on October 22nd the 10 up-and-comer award winners who then in November will actually, we're going to put them in the Shark Tank. I mean, it's going to be at the aquarium in the Shark Tank room. Okay, not in the Shark Tank, but close enough. And they'll make their pitches to some venture capitalists, and that'll be also open to the public. So as you can tell, we've got a lot of great new activities coming up. We continue to also make sure that we're trying to stay current, and so that's one of the reasons why Luke Tannen and Dan Miller and I, with Brian Brochus, wrote this book that just came out in November. It's a great testament to Chicago and all the great innovation, both big company and small company, that's going on here. And then one last thing, in order to stay current, we just completed a study with 87 companies to identify their best practices. And lo and behold, what clearly came out as the number one key ingredient to success was not about the innovation process that they used or their software programs that they employed or the strategy that they held, but rather the culture that they had cultivated, the culture that they had created, and whether or not and to what degree the culture was one that really embraced risk-taking, enabled and permitted failure to take place, and ultimately truly valued the contributions and the strengths of each individual. So that study is now available on our site, and we'll be talking more about that in the future. So the whole purpose of tonight is to be able to, as I mentioned for the first time, present the winner of the Chicago Innovation Award and IIT Stuart School of Business. And several months ago, we encouraged students here to participate. We have a number of students that are, I think, in your programs that did and have received certificates tonight. But after a rigorous round of judging, there was ultimately one team that won, and that's called Jobber. And you'll be hearing from the two students who created Jobber, Kristine, Angell, and Kristi Leach, in just a minute. Another mission of the Chicago Innovation Awards is to retain top talent and to cultivate it here in Chicago. So that's the other reason why we brought together tonight 4 panelists that we feel are pretty special people to be able to talk to them about their careers, the organizations that they currently work in, the cultures they've helped to create, and ultimately what that might mean for all of you that are looking for a career in innovation. And as always, we're always grateful to our sponsors of the Chicago Innovation Awards that enable all of these events to be brought to so many different constituents throughout the city of Chicago. And in fact, both Cisco and Google are 2 of our panelists tonight that you'll be able to meet. So I would now like to introduce Kristine, Angell, and Kristi Leach and give them each a plaque for winning the Chicago Innovation Awards Scholarship, and they'll also be receiving a $5,000 Chicago Innovation Award scholarship besides these great plaques. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congrats. And now they're going to talk about their why they won and what Jobber's all about, right?
Right. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Kristine. And I'm Kristi. And our business concept is Jobber. So we're going to tell you a story about Anna. Mm-hmm. Anna loves her job. Right. Anna's always dreamed of being a journalist. About 4 or 5 years ago, she got a job with writing for a local business magazine. She hasn't looked back. In fact, things have been going so well for her that she recently put down an offer on a condo.
But then the worst happens. Anna gets laid off.
She wasn't expecting this, but she's going to be okay. She's not panicking yet. In fact, so Anna puts together Anna thinks that she's got the skills to get hired. Everybody needs somebody who can write really well. So she puts together her resume and posts it to a couple job boards and lets her friends and colleagues know that she's looking.
But then 6 months go by.
You know, this long period of unemployment has really devastated Anna, both emotionally and financially. She lost that condo. She's had to sell her car, and recently she dipped into her 401k. You know, I really feel for Anna. She wasn't expecting this.
And it's not that she's lazy.
In fact, last month she put out over 40 resumes, but in all of this time, she's only had 1 interview.
She can't figure out what she's doing wrong.
And advice from friends and family hasn't helped either. In fact, her job search has started to put a strain on that relationship. And when she sits down at her computer in the morning, you know, the burden of her search really hits her. She doesn't know what to try next.
Then Anna discovers Jobber, and Jobber helps her better manage the search. Jobber aggregates information on which firms are hiring, going rates for Anna's skills, and influential people to contact. It also lets her know about adjacent industries for which she might have transferable skills. So the more she uses Jobber, the more she learns how to market herself.
Mm-hmm. Jobber, every day, Jobber compiles a list of tasks for Anna that are based on her information and her activities. So when she sits down at the computer, she now knows what to do. She gets a list of current applications that she's been working on and when she needs to get those out. She has a list of people that she needs to follow up with, and she recently discovered that Jobber can tell her all about the events that are happening around town and the people who are going to be there. So if she wants to network, she can. Anna's no longer at a loss of what to do.
Before Jobber, the big job sites like Monster and Career Builder, they frustrated Anna. She felt like she couldn't sort the relevant job postings from the chaos, and LinkedIn intimidated her. Anna knows how to talk to people in person, but online she felt like she didn't know the rules. So now she can take better advantage of all of those things, and her day has structure. Not only is she expected to be there from 9 to 5, but Jobber even reminds her to take days off from the search. It's like having a personal trainer for her job hunt. Reports in Jobber let Anna see her stats, like resume response rates and how well she's doing on follow-ups. So she gets objective feedback, and she has visibility into her job search. She can course correct when necessary.
Mm-hmm. Since using Jobber, Anna doesn't feel so overwhelmed. In fact, Jobber's tactics have helped her find her stride. Anna feels far more confident now because she can keep track of her progress, and she always has something lined up.
So Jobber helped restore a sense of control. She was able to refine her tactics so that she had the stamina for the long search. And next week, Anna starts her new job. Thank you.
I almost started to cry, though, halfway through when she lost it all, but it's great. I think it's a great job and well done and a good articulation in a short period of time, so congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats. Thank you. Congrats to both, and as I mentioned earlier, the Chicago region is home to a breadth of different types of innovation, and we've got 4 panelists today that we'd like to bring up on the stage, and then I'll introduce each one of them. Hardik Bhatt, Talia Mashiach, Drew Mitchell, and Pete Cadence. First, on my left, Hardik Bhatt is the Director of Business Development and Strategy for Cisco's Global Smart and Connected Communities Group. He joined Cisco after being the Chief Information Officer for the City of Chicago and Commissioner for the Chicago Department of Innovation and Technology for close to 5 years, which is where I met Hardik. And I kept, the reaction I kept having to this gentleman was, he's in government? He's in government? Really? Because he thought, at least in my view, like an entrepreneur and like a business person, and he brought with Mayor Daley a lot of great advancements to our city. As Chicago's information officer, Hardik had been leading a team of 250 employees and consultants with an annual budget of over $150 million. And prior to joining the public sector, he worked as a consultant with Oracle in the U.S. and also the Tata Consulting Group in India. He has his MBA from the Kellogg Graduate School of Management and a bachelor's in computer science from MS University in India. Drew Mitchell is the head of industry local for Google. Since joining Google in 2006, Drew has led the development of key advertising relationships with Fortune 500 clients, including ADT, Dell, Sprint, Target, and many others. He currently runs Google's home services advertising sales vertical, And prior to Google, was the director of marketing at Hostway Corporation, where he won the Business Marketing Association's Gold Tower Award. Prior to that, he was the marketing manager at Go Reader, a digital textbook startup, as well as a project manager at Feeding America, where he helped build and market an online donation system that allowed food manufacturers to donate more than, is it right, 1 billion pounds of, or close to it?
Yeah.
1 billion pounds of excess goods to local food banks in the system's first year. Drew received his MS in integrated marketing from Northwestern University and a BA in journalism advertising from the University of Oregon. Pete Cadence, next to Drew, is a leader in the American Green Movement and currently serves as the president of Socor Energy, a fast-growing, venture-backed solar energy firm that's the first company to pioneer the rental of solar equipment to the masses. Socor Energy, by the way, was a Chicago Innovation Award winner, and all the judges were so impressed with this new business model that Pete and his team have actually created. Prior to Socor, Pete was the founder and CEO of Acquirent, an outsourced sales company that Pete and his team grew to be ranked the #1 outsourced company in the U.S. And he was selected as the president of the National Association of Sales Outsourcers in 2007 by his peers and served in that capacity until leading the industry in early 2008. He spent 4 years before that at the investment bank of UBS. That's where you must have learned how to do a pro forma and a pitch, right? And Pete holds his BA from Bucknell University. And then last on the panel is Talia Mashiach. Talia is the CEO and founder of Eved. Talia began her entrepreneurial career shortly after graduating magna cum laude from Loyola University School of Business. And her first company, an online computer sales platform, sparked her interest in technology, and she launched Eved in 2010 to lead the transformation of the multi-billion-dollar event industry from a manual, highly fragmented and traditional services sector to an online marketplace where all stakeholders in the industry supply chain can source, market, and transact commerce on a global scale. She's won many awards, ranging from being named to Crane's Chicago 40 Under 40 in 2010. So we know you're under 40. Yeah.
She's 35. She's
yeah, right. The Merrick Momentum Award by the Chicagoland Entrepreneurial Center, an induction into the Chicagoland Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame, which is just great. So I'm just delighted that all four are here. And now what I'd like to do is ask each of them to just give you a 2-minute overview of their company, what they do, and just a little snapshot of their career. Hardik?
Thank you very much, Tom. Great introduction, more than what I knew about myself. And glad to be here at Stuart School of Business. Back here, I was here a couple of years ago, and worked very closely with IIT. In my previous role, worked closely with Patrick Whitney at the IIT School of Design, Institute of Design, as well as Dennis Roberson at the IIT main campus. So currently I am with Cisco. I oversee business development for what we call smart and connected communities, equates to what IBM calls smarter planets, smarter cities. And I oversee the business development activities for the Americas, North and South. And our team looks into large, iconic opportunities like Brazil, getting ready for the Soccer World Cup and Olympics. We don't hold any grudges. I'm a Chicagoan, but we're going to help them. And Toronto, who's getting ready for the Pan Am Games in 2015, as well as a large project here in Chicago. And we basically work with the real estate developers to make sure that they would bring a master planner and an architect to design a new city or a community, at the same time work with the technology infrastructure, so you're building a city that sustains itself economically, socially, and environmentally for the next 100+ years. So that's basically what and I have peers in other regions like the Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific, Japan, and others. So it's kind of being an entrepreneur. This is a new line of business within Cisco. They gave us $100 million and said, go build the business. So it's kind of this. I call myself an innovator or entrepreneur that uses an iPhone, but has an iPhone cover, so if it drops, it doesn't break, and then also has a phone holder. So I like accepting or taking innovations in my strides, but keeping it safe. So I'm an innovator inside a big organization. So even City of Chicago, going back, large corporation, large organization, as the chief information officer, I started working there. And as I worked for 1.5 to 2 years in there, we figured that there is no place for innovation, or no single place. There was lots of innovation of processes going on inside the city, but no single place. So I approached the mayor and asked him, like, can we have one single place of innovation where everybody can go to, and we can create relationships like one with IIT or the SAIC, the School of the Art Institute, and others who we can work with and start bringing the user-centered approach in the services that the city provides. He agreed to that, allowed me to rename the department as Department of Innovation and Technology, created a small innovation center, and then it's, I think, doing much better since I left. But John Tolva, who is my replacement there, is an excellent innovator coming from IBM. So that's kind of, I'm an entrepreneur inside a large organization.
Thank you, Hardik. John Tolver is doing a great job there now because of the foundation you built. Drew?
Hi, I'm Drew Mitchell. I work at Google, and what I do is help large advertisers use Google to grow their business. So I run an advertising sales vertical there that focuses on home services clients. So those are, you're probably wondering what home services are: ADT Security, large pest control companies, all the real sexy clients that don't get the pub but spend a whole lot of money with us. So I run the teams that work with them. My past life before working at Google, which I've been at for 6 years now, which in Google kind of world seems like a very, very long time. Things have changed quite a lot in 6 years. But prior to that, I actually worked at much smaller companies and have gradually worked up to even work with larger companies. So when I left school, I worked for a short time in the sports industry, realized that I'm a bigger sports fan than I am wanting to work in sports, because they work you to the bone and don't pay you much because everyone wants to work in sports. So then I moved out here to chase a girl that is now my wife, moved out here about 12 years ago. And I worked at a startup that was focused on digitizing textbooks and building a tablet that college students could use so they no longer had to carry around a bunch of textbooks. Unfortunately, we're about 7 or 8 years too soon, but it was a really good experience and made me realize that technology was the place that I wanted to be versus sports. So I did that. Then the bus came along, and our company went out of business, unfortunately, but then moved into the nonprofit sector and helped build an online donation system for Feeding America, which prior to being called Feeding America was called America's Second Harvest. So what they do is help food banks across the country connect with the big food manufacturers like Kraft and General Mills, et cetera. It was this crazy, antiquated system of phone calls and faxes about trying to get truckloads of macaroni cheese to a really small food bank in a rural part of America. And so we were like, all right, there's technology out there to make this much more seamless and to happen a lot faster. So my job was to help build that from a user's standpoint, and then once it was built, go talk to the big food manufacturers about why it was important that they did that. So that was a rewarding and challenging experience. From there, I had one other job and then moved to Google and have had various jobs while at Google.
And Drew, the Chicago office started when of Google? 11 years ago?
Yeah, Kevin helped start it in 2001, 2002.
2001.
Yeah.
And there was 2 or 4 people back then, and today there's...
Yeah, John and Kevin stared at each other.
Yeah.
And then when I started, there were about 40 of us, and now there are about 500 of us, which probably a lot of people don't realize that Google has as large of a presence as we have here. And if everything goes well with the Motorola thing, we'll have a lot more employees here. So
Terrific.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive growth. That's great. Pete.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Hi, I'm Pete Cadens. I work at SoCore Energy. SoCore Energy is a innovative solar developer, and our job is to inspire commercial users to use solar for their facilities. Our customers are Walgreens, JCPenney's, Lowe's, Bed Bath & Beyond, TJ Maxx stores, Simon Properties, large retailers and REITs, real estate investment trusts, that own, control, or operate a lot of unencumbered roof space across the United States. And what we figured out is that there was a huge opportunity for folks who did own and control this roof space to leverage it with solar and leverage it in such a way where it was actually economically viable. So with the exception of one customer, which is IKEA, who's a very big customer of ours. In fact, for those of you who shop at the IKEAs here in Bolingbrook and Schaumburg, you'll see the two largest solar installations in the state of Illinois going up on those roofs over the next 3 to 5 weeks. So if you're at IKEA in the next 3 to 5 weeks, either one here in the area, and you see big scaffolding on the side and guys with hard hats walking up on the roofs, that's our guys, and we're installing solar there. We figured out is that through innovative financial structures and through an innovative solution that we can make solar affordable. There's a lot of stigma associated, kind of a negative stigma associated with solar. It's all subsidized, blah, blah, blah. I have really bad news for everyone in this room that every form of energy in the world is subsidized. Trust me, no utility is going out and spending $5 billion to build a coal-fired power plant with their own money. It may not be called a tax. It may not be called, a subsidy or an incentive. It's called a rate increase, and all of us pay for it. And so solar is as subsidized as every other form of energy. We think we have a really compelling story. The business has grown nicely. Relative to my career, as Tom mentioned, I did learn how to read a perform at UBS, but I think it was also, I learned what I didn't want to do. I was too dumb to understand all the cash flows at Enron. I was an oil and gas analyst. I couldn't quite gather how all the money was moving between the special purpose entities. So given that I was too dumb to figure that out, I decided to become an entrepreneur. And later, only years later, did I find out that I wasn't supposed to understand that. So I was really down on myself for a period of time. But I started my first company in 2003 called Acquirent, $25,000 and really no idea what I was doing. I got my big break. I always say, if I talk to an entrepreneur and they don't say within the first 3 reasons why they're successful as an entrepreneur that luck is a reason, they're fools. Because luck is a huge reason. I got my big break. Frankly, the business was tanking. It was awful. And I had Inc. Magazine reporter who I went to college with come to me and say, hey, I know you just started a business. I want to write a column about Diary of a Startup, profiling and chronicling the life of a startup entrepreneur. And that article and that chronicle, my 8 weeks of my life, got 25,000 unique hits a day on Inc. Magazine's website, and is what propelled the business. I got investors and I sold that business in 2007 and started SoCore in 2008, and it's been a lot of fun.
What percentage did you give the reporter?
I dated her in college, so.
Thanks, Pete. Talia?
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just want to tell you guys that the presentation you did was great, and I'm going to actually share it with my team in terms of presenting to clients and being able to tell a story, so really enjoyed that. So I'm Talia. I'm with Eved, and I'm founder and CEO, so another entrepreneur, and we are an online marketplace for the meeting and event industry where buyers and sellers can source and transact. So they're not, I guess there's still a few, but not too many really big industries where actually you don't transact online, right? You can now do, real estate, you can do all different kinds of things, but if you think about it, when you're planning events and actually buying, when you have to go purchase, whether it's renting an event venue or getting transportation or a number of different things that you need for an event, you still have to pick up the phone, sign a contract, fax it in, make your payments. And so Eved is all about bringing that all online and be able to do the commerce online by bringing the buyers and the sellers together. And it's a challenging opportunity. You have to evangelize and tell people there's a need. It's kind of like, when the iPhone came out and everyone thought it was really cool, but okay, we're okay with our BlackBerry. Why do we have to pay all this extra money? And they had to come out and convince us why we needed it. So innovation, you got to convince everyone why they need it. So we're out there convincing everyone why they need to buy and sell online instead of doing it manually. And my story, I feel like after sitting with these guys, I didn't ever really have a real job. Because as you've already announced publicly, I'm 35.
It's public. You can find it out online. It's good age.
And I really right out of school. I mean, I always just even as a kid, I was always kind of coming up with different businesses and things I wanted to do. And so I always kind of did my own thing. I never worked for a company. I started, as we mentioned, just kind of doing some stuff in technology. And when I saw an opportunity in about 2004, this big, huge $263 billion space, I said, with no technology, I saw this really great opportunity to bring it. And I knew I needed to really get my feet wet and understand what events. I had no idea really very much about events. And so I opened a company that would actually be one of those event service providers, an event planner, and built the technology around how can you get an event planner to sell to their customers and buy from their suppliers. And we had some great success, especially because of the technology. And we sold that company, and in 2010 launched Event and took the experience and the technology with us and launched a global marketplace. We were fortunate enough to actually be one of the up-and-comers on the Innovation Award. And we are on a fast growth pace to really open this market.
Dynamite. Terrific. Thanks, Talia. Well, what I'd like to do now is I'm going to ask the panelists a few questions, and then give you all time to think of some good, penetrating, stimulating questions that you can ask them. Okay. My first question is this, and you don't all have to answer it, but if you want to, that's great. When we hear the word career nowadays, career means a lot different things today than it did many years ago. Many years ago, it probably meant staying in one organization for a long period of time until you retired. Today, that's no longer the case. So when you think about your own personal career, and you'd have to pick one, and you have to be boastful about this now, Hardy. You have to be boastful. If you had to pick one key to success, what's your own personal key to success with your career?
There is one key. It's difficult to answer, but I think just being at the right place at the right time, knowing the right person, is probably the key, and doing the right thing. I mean, it's just literally in my career. If somebody tells me that they had planned their career and then 25 years later exactly it turned out that way, I wouldn't believe that. I mean, everything has happened one after the other. But I think I've always tried to make sure that whatever I do, I've never started up a company or anything like that. I've always worked in big organizations. So Tata Consultancy Services, the biggest in Asia consulting company, Oracle Corporation, Cisco, city government in Chicago. But I always try to make sure that whatever I do, I'm relevant to the main business of the company. And then figure out what new can I do in my position that would augment the overall value of the business. So when you said City of Chicago and what do you do in innovation, so while my job was to manage the technology for the City of Chicago, we found that there was no one place for improving the services or service delivery channels for the city. So we kind of started that. There was no place to provide digital literacy to the Chicagoans. There was not anybody's job within the City of Chicago. So we took that on and ran with it, and then raised $25 million from various sources to propel that further, as opposed to. So I think few things: do the right thing, right place, right time, right people. Never ask for money. I think just compel with your work that to people that have money, that they will give you money because they will see that you have possibilities of making your idea successful. That's terrific. What has happened.
So it's also making yourself relevant in a way that will then add value to the organization.
To the organization.
That's terrific.
I would say as an entrepreneur, just two easy things. The first is passion. Like, you have to be passionate and love what you're doing, and you have to be willing to persevere. Like, it's just a killer road, and the perseverance of getting and accomplishing that is what's going to make you successful.
So persevere. And how do you maintain that, Talia? How do you?
Well, first you have to have the passion. So you have to love what you're doing, because you will not be able to get up every day and do the hard work it takes to be successful if you don't love it. And that includes enjoying the people that are around you. Every day that you come into work, believing in what you're doing, and having the right reasons for yourself as to why you're doing it.
Dynamite. Terrific.
I would say, for me, I already told you luck, so I think this is a big part of it, but I would say for me, fanatic discipline. just an unwillingness to waver on things that are critical to you and to your business. And I think the best example that most entrepreneurs really screw up is there is a delineation between good revenue and bad revenue, and good profit and bad profit. And many too many entrepreneurs take on revenue they shouldn't be taking on because those customers are problematic, will make them inefficient, and at the end of the day, just aren't good people to be working with potentially. So we have a fanatic discipline at our company to what is good revenue, what is bad revenue. We have a lot of people who call us and they get really pissed off because we won't take them as customers. What, you don't want my money? My money isn't green? Unfortunately for us, it's not. And that's just the way things have to be. We are focused exclusively on this set of customers. That's all we do, but we do a damn good job for them. The other thing is with that, relative to fanatic discipline, there are just certain things you have to be so committed to. It's so ingrained in you. It's so a part of you. You just can't make any sacrifices. And the one for me, and I've fired 3 people in my 10 years running companies over this, is if I ever hear someone yell at a customer, swear at a customer, talk condescendingly to a customer, I don't care who it is. I don't care if you're my brother, my first employee, my best friend. I will fire you, and I will fire you on the spot. That's unacceptable. We can't have it, and I'm disciplined about that. And everyone in our company knows, because if I let one person slip there and everyone else hears it, then all of a sudden you can treat customers like crap. And you can't do that. So we are fanatically disciplined at our company about how we treat our customers. We won't accept our customers being treated any other way other than with a lot of respect.
Oh, that's great. Drew?
Yeah, I agree with these guys on all the things they said. I think the one piece of advice that stuck with me from a guy that I knew a long time ago, he told me, 10% of your day you should be completely uncomfortable with. And I was like, well, why would I want to be uncomfortable in my job? I mean, I want to be comfortable with life. And he's like, no, there's being the willingness to be uncomfortable, because once you're comfortable, you think you've got it all figured out, and you should never be in that spot. And so uncomfortable can be anything from just trying to learn something new, putting yourself in a meeting with, if you're younger, with the CEO, being challenged. So I always remind myself, as soon as I feel comfortable, it's probably time to move on, and that's what I remind my teams to do, because a lot of young people work at Google, and got to kind of challenge them to the willingness to be uncomfortable.
That's great. I love it. So the passion, the discipline, and being uncomfortable is part of the keys to success. That's great. Let me ask you this question: if you had to pick 2 words, just two words, to describe the culture of your organization today, what would those 2 words be? How would you describe it in 2 words?
Ours would be entrepreneurial and team-oriented.
And team-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you manifest that? Or how did it get to that point?
Well, I think as a startup, you have to have an entrepreneurial culture, so it's a little bit easier than a big company. But it is having an environment where ideas are celebrated, whether they're good or they're not good, and people are excited about what they're doing, and they come in and kind of alongside with your passion, and they're passionate about it. And team-oriented, I think it's especially sometimes with a very strong entrepreneur or innovator, can come all about them, and it's not really fun to be on a team where it's all about one person. And I think to really be successful in what your mission is, everyone needs to understand in the organization how they play a role, and how we all come together to make our goals. And you see a lot more success that way.
Terrific.
I would say at SoCore, this might be 3 words, but an ownership mentality. We have a bias at our company. Every single full-time owner at our company, every single full-time employee at our company is an owner of the company. It's a bias I've carried with me for a long time. And it's not just phantom stock or stock options. It's real stock in the business. One of the reasons I left my last business, quite frankly, and I sold out, is because my partners, who I owned at the time, I had controlled 45% of the business and they controlled 55% of the business, was because they didn't want to allocate stock to more people. I found it to be not only insulting, but also just wrong in terms of how to grow a business. So when I started this business with my partners, the goal was every single person who's been there for longer than 6 months and has proven that they are committed, knowledgeable, intelligent, revenue-generating employee will own the company. And so they all do. And so when people own the company, they act like they own the company. They get to work early. They stay late. They're willing to go the extra mile. I like working with people who think like owners.
Great.
Yeah, there are probably a lot of words to describe Google's culture, but and I'm not going to use innovative. I would say the first thing is probably curious, and the second is collaborative. The one thing that I've always been amazed about the people at Google, regardless of how old or how long they've been there, or entry level to the top, is they are just so curious about everything, whether that's you as a person or how to solve really big, crazy problems and create really big goals that seem unattainable, but through collaboration, because people are so curious about the others around them, actually can go out and achieve.
Dynamite.
So Cisco, I would call it a large entrepreneurial company with $40 billion cash. So it's a good combination to have.
Good problem to have.
I mean, Chris Ford, my colleague, is sitting in the back. He can substantiate. I mean, example is our smart connected communities. I mean, John Chambers said that here's $100 million, go build a new industry. And we are in the middle of reshaping the real estate industry, which has not changed for the last 2,000 years. So that's one. And then the other thing is, even though we are publicly traded, we are not that much afraid of failures and accepting that we failed. A good example is we thought that Flip Video was a great acquisition. We acquired it and killed it. But we are not that afraid of those kind of failures. So it's a large organization with a great entrepreneurial culture.
Terrific. Thank you. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'll throw out to some of you. My question is, what is it about Chicago that has helped you succeed in your career?
The people. I'm not a native Chicagoan. I grew up in a small town in Idaho, and then went to school at Oregon and lived in Southern California. And when I moved to Chicago, I met my wife when I was in Southern California. She was born and raised in Beverly, just on the south side. I don't know, there's just something about Chicagoans that are just inherently positive and social, and they are very willing to help you. For such a large city, I find that to be very unique. Living in LA, there are millions and millions of people that are completely disconnected from one another. And sorry if anyone is from Southern California, but I found that to feel very lonely in this sea of people. But then when I moved to Chicago, it's like immediately you had this kind of community based upon the neighborhood you live in, based upon whether you like the Cubs or the Sox or whatever the case may be. And I more quickly met more people that have had a bigger influence on my life than anywhere that I've lived.
I'd echo that. I think people is the biggest asset of Chicago, whatever we call about the conservative Midwestern mentality of people live in Chicago. But I think that comes very handy when you're looking for setting up your foot here and establishing here. I've experienced that myself. I'm not a Chicagoan. It's been 14 years, though. I don't feel like any other place was my home before Chicago. But I think to that, nobody celebrates innovation like Chicago does, Tom. That's another reason.
Sure, yeah. That's for sure.
I would say from an entrepreneurial side, Chicago is a great place to start a company. I think the technology community has had incredible growth in the last 10 years. Chicago Entrepreneurial Center, led by Kevin Willard, the new 1871 that you talked about doing events, and just the overall leadership of this community really looking to invest and build Chicago as a great place to start a new company. And that takes real dedication from people.
Terrific.
And I think the proof to that is major mayoral transition does not detract Chicago. I mean, we are still going full force in terms of innovation, and just it's amazing.
Yeah, and in fact, I'd say in the last 3 years, it's expanded more than ever.
Yeah.
Pete, did you have a?
I think I said it all.
Okay, great. Any questions that you might have of the panelists, and I'll come back for a few. Yeah, Lynn, could you just stand up and shout it out?
Hi, I'm Lynn. What do you see are the greatest challenges and opportunities for the next level of growth of your companies?
Good question.
Good question. I don't know. No, it's a great question. I mean, Cisco For us, we have been called, now that we don't like it, but we have been called the internet plumbers for forever. We are the ones who make the internet work. It's getting commoditized. So how are we going to sustain the growth that we have seen over the last so many years? And that is where going in with where new constructions are happening, new cities are being built, new communities are being built. That's one area. The second area is video. The use of video is booming. So that's another area of tremendous growth for Cisco. I mean, those are the two big areas of growth that we are seeing. Chris, I mean, I believe those are, two big areas that we think from Cisco's perspective we can get in and sustain the growth that we have seen over so many years.
I think that managing growth and getting to that next level is all about people. It's all about emotion. It's all about your mental mindset. And for that reason, we have a company logo. It's a company motto, that we talk about almost every day. It's humble, hungry, smart. Those are three words that we believe define us. And I think the thing that gets many companies in trouble is their inability to be humble as they succeed. Our company has gone from 0 to $45 million in revenue in 3.5 years. But still, we always say, we have a lot of work to do. We are not even close to where we need to be. We have a lot of warts. We got problems. We're not as smart as we should be. We're constantly looking, I like the word he used, curious. We're constantly curious about how can we get better. I think that if I've seen the demise of companies that don't get to the next level, it's because they either become complacent, they hire the wrong people. You have A players working with C players. A players hate working with C players. And you got to stay strict to your hiring protocol. You got to stay focused. You got to stay humble. That's how we get to the next level. We manage the people, we hire the right people, and we manage the emotional state of our organization. We'll grow dramatically.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that Google needs to do to maintain, the position in the market that we have now. But I think the two things that are most important is one, continuing to act like a small company. We're 35,000 employees, yet we continue to act like the day that I joined, and I think that's amazing because that's a really hard thing to do as you get really, really big. And the other is, from a product standpoint, making identity and personalization work in a very in a way that users love and are not scared of. I think a lot in the news, there's a lot of information out there about Google and our privacy policies, et cetera, and how we're handling that. So I think that's the number one thing that we have to get right if we're going to go from where we are now to be one of the to continue to grow at the rates that we have been over the last 5-10 years.
Talia?
Well, we've got a tremendous amount of growth ahead of us. So we've got a $263 billion market to bring online. That's we did last year. We launched our event commerce, which was the actual ability to do commerce, and we did about $7.5 million. And our goal is to be over $50 million this year, and that's not even 0.25%. So there's really tremendous opportunity. I think we've got a while before we're going to have to worry about what that next growth is going to be for us.
Terrific. That's great. Some good answers, huh, Lynn? I just want to make one comment on Drew. It was 3 years ago that I gave a speech at Google here in Chicago. But in fact, there was some folks on the screen behind me from Mountain View or from Boulder, so it was an interesting group. And the thing that I couldn't get over, here's this big company that everybody turns to and points and says, look, they're risk takers, right? They're risk takers, Google. And that was the topic they kept asking me more about, is how can we take more risks? How do we get better at this? How do we be more entrepreneurial? And so, I think that's part of what my observation is with all four of these folks, too, is that whenever you think you're really all that good and are at the top of the mountain, is probably when you're headed south, as opposed to always looking and seeing and trying to figure out how can I do something better and bolder and even greater. Did you have a question? Yeah. Could you stand up, please? And thank you. Oh, sure you are.
For me, innovation is like putting sugar on my cornflakes and telling it So this is more for the entrepreneurs. Being on the finance side, I was curious to some of the hurdles that you guys had to overtake to get to the next step with respect to building your platform, getting marketing. I know you had to hook up from college and all that, but
Good question.
Want me to go
Thanks.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I think the most important thing you can do, especially when you're building technology, is make sure you don't run out of money. So I think that's the biggest thing that happens why people don't wind up making it, other than the perseverance. One of the things I think is important is to, if you can, and I'm sure it's different when there's still a lot of capital, is to try and prove out your idea as much as you can before you go to raise money. I think people come up with the idea and they say, okay, who am I going to go raise money from? And if you haven't had a client and you haven't really fully baked your idea, and you're really probably not prepared to do that if you haven't already run a company and built something and exited. So that would be my first suggestion and you can do that sometimes by yourself. I took out a line of credit. I remember it was like $330,000, and I did it twice actually with my first company and then second one back, and really tried everything to get to the point before I raised. And then once I got five big clients on and felt like I knew that we were gonna make it. It's harder when you have other people's money to fail than it is your own, believe it or not. I did an angel investment of about $1.8 million, which is rare also. So if you can find that, that's great. But that was waiting long enough to get to that point, and then needed to bridge to the point where we really got our commerce going. And then just recently we did a VC round with local Chicago VCs for another $9.5 million. And so it's been a process, but really our focus was we set a point in the company that we needed to get to before we were going to raise the next round, and we needed to get there with the money we had. And I think that was really a great discipline for us in making sure, because that kind of capital is expensive.
Yeah, I would, just to echo her point, I would say most entrepreneurs go into entrepreneurship not fully understanding the dilutionary impact of raising money, as well as the impact of how people will control your life and potentially make your life miserable. And been there, done that. And so at the end of the day, I think you got to be careful about when you're ready to go raise money. You got to have a couple clients on board. The idea's got to be baked. The addressable market has to be substantial enough that the market would react positively. But one interesting creative idea. I have a saying: if you're not networking, you're simply not working, especially in entrepreneurship. And one of the ways that I found that I was able to raise money was, oddly enough, through my philanthropic endeavors. And my involvement in the homeless community and a couple other different communities, where I would meet with people who had money or had access to money or knew people who had money, and they saw how I worked in a genuine way with things that had nothing to do with making money. And all of a sudden, when I went to them a year or two or three later for an ask and said, hey, I need to raise $1 million, I need to raise $5 million, whatever it was, all of a sudden their ears perked up because they knew they could trust me, they knew they liked me, and I thought then they saw me work outside of the business context where it's just all about avarice and greed. And so I encourage young people and entrepreneurs to get heavily involved in philanthropic endeavors and do so with genuine intent. It's amazing how many people you can meet and what they'll do for you somewhere down the road.
Terrific. Another question?
Hi, I'm Michelle at Kristi for the entrepreneurs. So when you were at $0, when you had those first clients, what was it that you did to acquire the clients? What was in your toolkit to get you into the door where they actually believed it would produce? Did you start a new industry?
Can you take that
Yeah,
one first?
I told you a couple of minutes ago that our company motto is humble, hungry, smart. A couple of my employees kidded me that early on it should have been humble, hungry, hyperbole. And at the beginning, you kind of sell the dream a little bit, right? Not that I never thought we could execute on the dream, but you have to believe in something, and you have to believe you can pull it off, even if it doesn't exist today. But ostensibly what we did is we went to our first couple customers who were flagged well-branded customers and effectively gave it away. I mean, we gave away the business. Our margins were compressed. Our margins, they were next to nothing. And we gave it away, and then we were obsessive about servicing the hell out of that client. We did a great job for them. There was absolutely no way that client couldn't say great things about us. So I hate to say it's the easiest way, but people will bang their heads against the wall trying to get that first customer on board at routine margins. without a balance sheet, without a business, without any credibility, it's just not going to happen. So your better way to do it is to find that innovative customer who's in that unique portion of the bell curve, is willing to take some risk on a novel concept with a new company, and be good to them and treat them well and treat them with respect and don't charge them a lot. That's in our business. It's all about credibility.
I think it's similar. It is that unique client. There's that little piece where the early adopters that you need to, who would have to be the ones that you went after. In our situation, we looked at it as an industry, and this is really about changing this fragmented industry that's been around for a very long time. And we looked to find the leaders of the industry, so the big companies. So we went to the big meeting and incentive companies. We looked at the big global suppliers, and who are the ones who kind of led the conversation around this industry. And we said, hey, we've got to change the way we do business. Technology's got to play a role. It's not going to be forever that you're going to be faxing and manually doing all these things. And we said, well, what does that look like? Help us, come and we want to be that engine behind it, but let's bring all you guys together. You're the buyers, you're the sellers. How do you want to work together? And we sat with those customers. I think in addition, I did spend 7 years learning all of those pieces, so that was big. But really, we sit down and understand what this industry wants and how then we can just create that for them. And so they now become, they're not owners, financially, but they're owners because it's also their idea. So I would say when it's a new customer also helping you to create that idea and to test it for you, is that making them feel ownership to that, they're going to be committed to you. If their idea and you get a reference, they're never going to say it was bad, right? So that, I think, has been key, and we've continued with a customer advisory board with them to be the ones who really come in and we meet with them and continue to keep them engaged. And I would say that they were a big part of us being able to get our funding, because they all said, we're not exactly sure about everything, but we believe in them and that they're going to be able to do that. And I think it takes an entrepreneur to lead that. And I would say you got to have really great sales skills. I think a good entrepreneur is a really good salesperson, because it's all about, they believe in the vision and they buy into you, really, and buy into your company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Pete's hyperbole too, because I can remember back still 28 years ago when I started my consulting business, and my first client was a 3M company, and my second was Lowe's, which makes cat box filler, and it's a small company. And by then, any client that would ask me, well, tell me about your clients. Well, my clients, well, they range from large corporations like the 3M Corporation to small entrepreneurial ventures like Lowe's. The whole gamut.
One more thing I think that people make a mistake is that you think you have to do everything the first time. Like before you can have a product, before you can serve everyone, you've got all these ideas. And I think the key thing is to find that one key idea that can get you to the market fastest, get a key customer on, and let them start talking, and then go build all the other pieces.
Great.
Let me ask one last question, and that's it. When you look to hire someone, what's the number one thing that's most important to you in looking at hiring a new person?
I'd look for someone who has, who can build his or her own opinions based on the information they can gather, as opposed to just accepting others' opinion. Because if they have that, then I think they can contribute to the success of the organization in a much better way than just tell me what I do.
Can I say more than one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Smarts, obviously, and that's the easy one, but the flexibility to have done a lot of different types of things and be successful in a lot of those areas. So when I hire someone, I'm not looking for like a really good salesperson only. I want to see that they've done interesting things, whether that be in work life or philanthropically or whatever the case may be. Flexibility to learn.
Yeah, I've trained our folks to kind of stay away from being equipped with this notion that shiny resumes with big MBAs are the people we have to hire. Actually,
not that they're bad.
I agree. They're bad. But I've fired a lot of high quality Ivy League MBAs, and I've kept some too. But really, it's about no better way to say it other than that glimmer in someone's eye. When you look at someone across the table and you see their smile, you see what's inside of them, and there's that charisma, that positive energy. I can't teach positive attitude. I can't teach connecting with someone one-to-one. I can't teach eye contact. Tell you what I can teach. I can't teach modeling. I can't teach how to build a pro forma. I can teach, all the basic skills that, frankly, any school out there teaches. But I can't teach the intangibles. So we always really look at, what's this person about? How do you feel when you interact with them? And do you feel like that person would get along with people here? If I would tell you, 100% with 100% certainty, if their colleagues don't like them, our clients won't like them. I know that for a fact. And so I always say, there's a single woman in my office, and I was talking to her about this notion of who do you hire, and I asked her what's the biggest component to when you go out on a date. I said, why would you go out on a date with a guy again? And I said, well, maybe if I trusted him. I'm like, well, hold on a second. You're telling me you're going to go on a date with somebody, you're going to go back and tell your girlfriends, I didn't like the guy, but I trusted him, so I'm going to go out with him again. No, the reality is it's not about trust. It's not about anything else. It's about, do I like that person on the other side of the table? I'll go out with them again if I do. And that's who we hire.
Great. Ellie?
So, I would call it a lot of you said passion. So we look for that passion. We look for someone who's not just an individual contributor, but can work within a team. I think that's real important for us. Work ethic, especially in a startup. If you can work really hard, and we tend to look a lot less than what the MBA and what you've done in school, and a lot more about what experiences that you've already had. So if somebody's had this really great experience, or they've gone and gotten their master's, we're going to take the person probably that has the experience to bring to the table. And so those are probably really the key thing, in addition to positive attitude and some of the other things.
Terrific. Dynamite. Well, the reason why I keep doing these panels is because I keep learning a lot. That's why I keep doing them, and hopefully all of you did too. Talia, Pete, Drew, and Hardik, thank you so much. We all learned a lot. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I also want to be sure to thank Krishna Aramilli, who's the professor of marketing and director of IIT's Stuart MBA program. Krishna, just stand up, because he's the one that put all this together with us. Tom?
Thank you. I want to make a couple of closing comments and then pick up on what Pete said. If you're not networking, you're not working, and we have that opportunity for you. I want to thank Tom and his colleagues at his firm for assisting and coming up with this idea and pulling many of the panelists together. Your program lists a number of people, corporations that have been sponsors for this, and I'd like to thank those companies for what they provided, because without them this wouldn't have happened. We got together today to celebrate a concept and two people. And I'm delighted that so many people showed up to celebrate the thinking and the innovation that Kristine and Kristi put together. That was really not just an interesting idea, but an extremely clever way of presenting it, and you're to be congratulated. I thank the panelists and Tom and others for providing a conversation around innovation. We need to have that conversation because innovation innovates. And today's innovation is not tomorrow's innovation, and so we have to have this ongoing dialogue if we're going to keep thinking differently and coming up with ideas that don't yet today exist. So thank you, everybody, for participating in that. Out in the area where you